Train by day, Kyle Wigington podcast by night, all day.
Alyssa Garofalo.
Yes.
So you were telling me this interesting story about you almost dying this morning.
So yeah, day started off pretty crazy.
What happened?
I was having French toast with my neighbor. We have breakfast together a lot, coffee more than breakfast, but today it was breakfast, and I went to go get something out of my cabinet over my sink, and the entire cabinet comes detached from the wall. It starts to like halfway fall down, detached from the wall, and I'm holding it up, and she has to run in. And granted, Destiny is my neighbor. She's smaller than me, and she's sitting there having to hold up the cabinet while I reach in and pull glass dishes out, holding the door kind of shut.
How does the cabinet just fall off the wall?
I mean, that's a question for Richard, my landlord, who's gonna stop by and fix that. Poor Richard. I don't mean to blast him on the podcast because like he's gonna come handle it tomorrow. That's
it's kind of like a secondhand blast.
No, I don't know what's going on. It's an old house. It's like a little more expected, I guess, from a space that like you sign waivers that it's old.
Right.
It's uptown like New Orleans.
Most houses in New Orleans. Yeah. The first one that I lived in when I moved down here was the same way. Because
we don't care. It's just about the character,
I guess. I mean, even when they do like build or refurbish the houses, they keep the front of the houses on. Have you ever seen that? Mm-hmm. They like prop them up. It's a good thing you have a man in your life.
Oh my God.
But
it's terrible. Destiny's better than a man. She's a fabulous friend.
I was talking about Richard.
Oh yeah, Richard. No, Richard was funny. He was very sweet. He was like, "Is the danger over? Are you all right? Like, send me pictures. I'm gonna see what it has to." He's like, "I think it'll hang on until Monday, but that thing is definitely coming down." And I'm like, "Well, I wouldn't have done that by the half of the cabinet hanging off the wall." But
you don't have a drill?
I can't really explain to you the situation that is this cabinet. It was some interesting workmanship, but I know it'll get fixed. I'm not too stressed about it. But it was crazy blessed that my friend was there. To help me from all of the glass dishes falling on me because I could have died this morning.
She saved your life, man.
She saved my life. So that was the start of my day. So it's a good Sunday.
It's good to have friends,
Yeah. We're lucky.
Yeah, we are. You are lucky to have a friend.
I'm so lucky.
I don't have any friends.
Just the guests on your podcast.
Yeah, I mean, you're more of an acquaintance.
I mean, yes, I would say that's an accurate description.
Yeah, I think it's dangerous to have too many friends.
And what's your theory behind that?
They know too much about you.
And what's the problem with knowing things about people?
I'm just kidding. I'm like wide open on this podcast. Like everyone knows anything about me that's ever listened to this anyway.
So picking your brain.
You guys say you always have breakfast together on Sundays?
No, it's more like we do coffee together most mornings because we're early birds. And if you're making a pot of coffee, you might as well split it.
Right. Is that one of your healthy habits?
Oh, no, definitely not a healthy habit, but healthy habits are definitely important and one of the topics for today.
Yeah. That's one of my healthy habits is I get up every single day and start it with a workout.
Okay. What do you do for your workouts?
I do weights typically. I do a little bit of cardio on Sundays. Just kind of depends on how I feel, but I need to start every single day with like a physical activity.
I think it's important. I agree with you. I feel like a lot of people don't work out consistently. I'm one of those people who doesn't work out consistently. I stretch, but I work out once a week, twice. But I like to think that I'm healthy because I tell myself that because I have an active job that I'm getting that energy out. But the truth is, and if you talk to people in fitness, like my trainer, who's really awesome, he knows his shit, he says that those kind of habits that you already have, like your body gets used to those. So it's not actually doing anything really to improve your physical or your health at the end of the day.
Oh, saying things like work.
Work.
Yeah.
Even though like I have a physical job, technically that's not really feeding my healthy habits at the end of the day. It's not because your body adjusts to that routine and it's just something that you're already adapted to be able to accomplish. Mm-hmm. So it's not really feeding any muscle or helping you burn fat or any of those things that an actual workout dedicated to yourself would do, which is a healthy habit that I struggle with, which is why I do commend somebody who has that dedication to a workout schedule.
Yeah, that's something I never really thought about, like having a very active job and then your body just adjusting to it. But I guess it does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Same way as a workout. Like you have to kind of push yourself in workouts or your body will adjust to that as well.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people doing manual labor who don't seem to be in the best health, who can lug things that I could never imagine picking up. Strength and healthy habits and physique aren't necessarily correlated. Some people are just like motivated to get some shit done.
Well, I mean, I think there's two different types of strength too. Like my high school basketball coach was pretty jacked, and my dad, who is just like a normal dude, but he has like that work strength. They went to pick something up one time and my dad outlifted him like crazy.
Yeah.
Like it was like it was nothing, but I mean, it's because they're different types of strength.
And it's just his body's already accustomed to that kind of work because he was motivated in that way to be that kind of a worker his whole life,
Yeah, mine are all for show.
Yeah, you're
these
just
are just
vain.
They're inflated. Yeah.
You're just vain. It's just there for the...
Yeah. So what other healthy habits do you have? Or do you have any healthy habits? I mean, it's New Orleans. Most people don't have healthy habits around here.
So I feel like healthy habits are something that we're always working on, but I try to eat with like better dietary things, but I think that everybody is at different paces of it. So if you're talking about my personal healthy habits, how I limit it is I do pescatarian diet.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't eat red meat. I don't eat land animals in general. It's fish, vegetables, and I do have the flaw of that I am a carb person. Mm-hmm. So I eat a lot of pasta, eat a lot of rice, but my problem more is finding a consistency and routine with the diets, because I think healthy habits are not just about making the right choices, but the consistency and the layout of how you make that commitment to yourself to just stick to whatever works for you.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? Because we're all like very different from like metabolic rates to like, preferences, whatever. You can find a diet that works right with your body. And that's why people have a whole field of jobs as nutritionists and stuff, But I guess for my healthy habits, I try to remember moderation and, which is a struggle for me because I smoke a lot of weed and we all know that we like to eat when we smoke.
Munchies are
a thing.
Yeah. I've heard some stuff about diet, and you said it right there, is we're all different. Some people think you have to eat for your genetics. That there are some people, lactose intolerant, that's because they lack a certain gene that lets them process milk. So I think you do have to find your own diet in that sense, and also your own routine that works for you. And consistency is 100% key in everything you do, not just in diet. Even with this podcast, like consistently, we've been doing it we've been doing it. Look at all these people here. Yeah. We've been doing it for over, right. Now, I've been doing it for over a year now, and just being consistent every single day. It's, slow growth, but it grows. Same way with working out. Like I've been doing that now for 10 years and being consistent with it every day, which puts some mass on,
I feel like consistency is just important because it helps us with relaying things in general, and I feel like this
this is a segue.
This is a segue
into communication.
Into
I like
communication, because I know it's kind of a hard left on a segue, but
no, I like it.
I think consistency is important. If people see that you are serious about the things that you do for yourself, whether it be these healthy habits or whatever, communication becomes easier because you're more of a person who is seen as a stable source for their word. And it's really sad, but I feel like we have trouble communicating with people who we don't respect or who we feel judged by and these kind of things. And I feel like people who have consistent habits and who display them in a positive way without and having that whatever works for you mentality and it's about your personal routine and stuff. It makes it easier to open lines of communication about things we could do overall to improve. And there's so many things to argue about all the time nowadays that we could at least get on the same page that health and consistency is good for self-esteem and like overall morale for people. And it's something we can all agree on as something that's beneficial.
So basically you're saying that consistent people are more trustworthy? Are viewed as more trustworthy?
Are viewed as more trustworthy. And I feel like that's what is exposed, you know, like you, for instance.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Like you're comfortable with the fact that your image in the world is as on your podcast. Like you are not a filtered person. You don't pretend that you haven't ever had a take that wasn't great. And you are pretty open. I feel that's why I like wanted to come on the podcast. That's why I was intrigued to talk to you because you're just like, even though I disagree strongly with your offensive take on things and the way you introduce yourself to people and how you come off initially.
Right.
It's clear that you have a strong sense of self. And I don't feel like you're trying to manipulate anybody. And I feel like that's an appeal with people but like, I feel like that's also bad because you feel like you have to pick a side. Like you have to be the villain, you know, or you have to be the good person. And I feel like, but it is easier to have a conversation with somebody who's flat out about who they are and they aren't hiding anything than it is to have a conversation with somebody who is overly concerned about boundaries. And that does not mean that I don't think there is a definite place for PC conversation and for respectful boundaries and tact. I just think that consistency is viewed as more accepted and palatable.
Yeah, I think a long time ago, I realized that I'm both the hero and the villain of the story. And that freed me up to be myself. Yeah, I think a lot of people...
Somebody said that. Who famous said that?
Well, I just said it. So yeah, I realized a long time ago that, you know, hero and villain. So allow me to be my true self. Because I think there are so many people on this planet now that are trying to... they're trying to be someone they're not just to please everyone around them. And I think that's a very dangerous way to live life. I think that every problem on this planet right now has a solution that's already here, but people are suppressing their own solutions that they have for these problems because they don't want to speak up.
Yeah, I think you have a really good point there. And this is where like the healthy habits and tying that into communication and even being the hero and the villain in your own story all kind of goes together with the topic of Esperanto and the world language that I wanted to talk about today.
Well, yeah, that's one of the solutions for a problem, right?
Exactly.
So explain what Esperanto is to those who aren't familiar.
Okay, you know, instead of explaining Esperanto and trying to like pretend that I know more than I know.
Oh, I will. I always do that.
What I like to do is just read the facts. So I'm going to sit here and pull up the Google page that
You're getting your facts off Google, bro. You got to get an AI.
It doesn't even matter. This is the concept.
Hang on. This will be a fun thing. This will be a fun thing. Sorry to cut you off, but this will be a fun thing. You read the Google notes and I'm going to ask AI and I'm going to read what AI says about it. Okay.
Okay. So the thing about Esperanto is that it was a world language that was created a long time ago. 1887 actually is what it says on
1887.
Yeah, it came along as like a universal language. I think it was created by like a Polish guy is what I was reading about it. But the idea, oh my God, I wish I could get back to this page.
Look at this.
Found earlier.
Dude, AI has already pulled it up.
Ask AI about it because I am still distracted from the coughing.
Okay, this is directly from my AI bot. And you can still find it on Google because I would love to hear what Google has to say too.
Okay.
Esperanto is a constructed international auxiliary language created by L.L. Zamenhof in the late 19th century. It was designed to be easy to learn and use with the goal of fostering communication and understanding between people of different linguistic backgrounds. Esperanto has a relatively simple grammar and a vocabulary based on roots from European languages, making it accessible to speakers of various backgrounds. It is used by a global community of speakers for communication, cultural exchange, and friendship. So basically a universal language for the planet that's very simple to use and understand.
Yes. Okay. And the reason I think that this is an interesting concept and why I think it's important is because like I'm saying that we can all agree on like healthy habits and the importance of consistency and like all these topics, even though they're kind of spread out, I feel like actually tie together in a lot of things that we worry about as like a global community, you know, but I was taking an anthropology class this semester and they were talking about the influence of like colors in different societies and like not having words for them or the way that they like the Himba tribe was one of them couldn't see blue and green separately in the same way because they see things in gradients or shades and this blue and green mean the same thing to them.
They didn't have a word for it, right?
They didn't have a word for it, right? So like it's like basically like how can we expect to understand one another when we don't even have the same words or concepts that cross over? So like we expect each other to be able to understand insight about health and communication where like not everybody is even familiar with the word pescatarian. So how can you choose that diet? Not everybody is familiar with keto. Not everybody, you know, it's just like we don't have these concepts of even basic things like health on a universal level. So if we can't even figure out a way to describe that, how are we trying to communicate ideals of philosophy and we're arguing over customs and beliefs and moral structures when we can't even communicate the ideas yet?
But I don't think Esperanto would be good for that. Because I think what you're talking
Not
about,
even getting us on the same page for like health.
You're talking about very complex words in a language. Like pescatarian is a very complex word in the English language, but Esperanto is a very easy language. Therefore, there's not very many complexities in it, probably.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Actually, it does need to be even simpler than that. I guess I have trouble not trying to apply it to the bigger language, like to the bigger idea, I guess, because my brain does naturally want to go to the fact that we should all be able to communicate and understand. But the fact is we first have to get to the very simplest of things, like agreeing on what the word for eat is.
Yeah, I think it would be good for that. It would be good. It would be good for agreeing upon things like, hey, do you have clean water?
Yes, like getting basic needs met on a world level by a language would be important. But it's funny because like your brain runs wild with idealisms and influences of what you know as a person. So it makes it hard to stay focused on such a simple idea. You know, I think naturally our brains drift to wanting to grandize things.
Yeah, I have a buddy who's a French teacher, and I reached out to him this morning. We were having a conversation about Esperanto. And he was basically saying that he didn't think it was a good idea to have that as a first language. And I know that it wasn't designed to be a first language, but he thinks it'll take a lot of the cultural, the beautiful things about a culture away from it. Because I mean, there's a lot in the language that actually, a lot said about a culture based on their language. So if you make that like the main language, then it's going to be bad. But if you have it a secondary language that everyone can actually understand and communicate with, that would be lovely.
I think I agree with that. But I also think that there are still, I mean, we're at a global place that we have technology that could help the world, but we can't communicate with third world countries. We can't figure out how to tell people that just because we're advanced, we aren't dangerous or here to hurt anybody. And maybe because that's not necessarily true, because people want your resources and people want things from each other. And we aren't as a human race, a naturally gentle person. We're animals who want to protect our young.
Yeah, humans are savages.
We're savages. So I don't know. But I feel like the key is figuring out how to, I don't even get the first letter understood by everybody.
Yeah, I mean, communication is definitely key. Like what was the, I think we used to take beads over to Africa and trade beads for gold. Like that's not even a good trade, but to them it was a good trade because they used beads for things. But I mean, that's insane if you actually think about it. So if we could open up a line of communication where they understood what we were doing, ripping them off.
And that's how far the distrust goes for everybody in society, because since day one, since wherever day one may be, whether it was evolution or religion, or we always are debating about these things that we can never solve instead of focusing on little issues that we could solve.
Like what? What do you think something that's easy to solve that we haven't solved?
It's not that it's easy to solve. It's horribly complex to solve, but we should be in agreement on.
Well, no, I mean, just what's one of those like easy things that we could like
all agree upon?
Yeah.
Everybody needs water.
Yeah. So why haven't we fixed it?
I don't know.
I mean, you're a poli-sci major. You should know these things.
Oh, no, this is why I'm a poli-sci major, but I'm also clinically depressed and constantly fighting my own battles of, wanting to give in to impulses and my own dopamine. And I have all these other issues that consume my time and my mind that are shallow human shit that we all go through, which is why at the end of the day, any commentary that all of us have to say on these issues is kind of funny, because if we really wanted to, we could, but we're focused on other things because we're human. You think
it's like the way that our society's structured that has us all depressed and in all these issues?
Absolutely, but it's just the way things have gone. It's what has triggered joy and dopamine that has become the focus, and it's what makes our world so beautiful, but it's also what creates a lot of darkness. It's two sides of the same coin, because people are able to create what we've created so far. I feel like it shouldn't be a focus on that. It should be a focus on what else we can create. Is this the end point? Are we just going to compete to do the same stuff we've always done? Is that the rat race, as they say?
So, I mean, there's something
making better.
This actually leads into the next topic of sex and hookup culture in New Orleans, because I think everyone is just chasing dopamine. Like we've made life so simple. The basic needs, like you get food and water here in America. So what do? We chase dopamine in other areas, and one of the areas is the sex and hookup culture.
Absolutely.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a way to distract ourselves. And I mean, I think that you
think it's unhealthy?
I think it's very unhealthy. I know that like I know that most interactions from day to day, whether we admit it or not, are roped in self-interest. And it is a dopamine chasing. It's like, how can I feel better today? And a lot of the times, like in this culture of like instant gratification and like being able to have so many people and your needs, like you said, are already met at your availability. It's just like, well, what can I do to fill the time now and distract ourselves? And we don't want to lose that either, Like, so we just feed into it and enjoy the ride.
So you think that's why people are hooking up? They're just chasing the sexual dopamine? I think it's ego related. We all want to be approved of. We all want to feel special. We all want to get that validation and appreciation. But the problem with hookup culture is like, we know there's so many people available and there's such a realm of dating and people. I think that the scarcity mindset of dating, I heard a podcast you were doing with people recently. I think it was another lady. Male. Okay. You were doing a podcast with a lady recently. And I'm not trying to disagree with her because like, yes, there was a lack of motivation, all this stuff. But the reason that there is a lack of motivation, it isn't because of a scarcity mindset. It's because like, it's just okay. It's okay to do that because like nobody believes. I think that there's a. You mean a lack of motivation to be in relationships? Yes. Is that what you're trying to say? Yes. Okay. So why would somebody everybody's so depressed, right? People aren't trying to do these things for themselves.
they're trying to do it. They're trying to build up their life to like an acceptable aesthetic to be able to get attention from the opposite sex in a way that feeds their dopamine. And, you know, it does get off physical, no pun intended, but it does get off physical like triggers as well. Everybody likes to be touched. That stuff is like natural, instinctive, you know? So like the dating stuff is fueled by that. And it's the approval. It's a whole line of issues with our parents and what is important to us, what things we value. And I'm not saying this to diss everybody, because some people really are out here just having a good time, enjoying themselves, sexually liberated or whatever. But I think that there's also a pressure to be that person who is sexually liberated and being like, oh, it's okay to have fun or whatever. But then, you know, I don't want to be with that person who's just okay with driving for DoorDash or whatever, instead of being like, why is that person doing that? They're kind of depressed and they know that, like, you know, I can get enough to get what I want dopamine wise. There's nothing else I can do about anything around me. I'm probably never going to be as successful as I want to be. I'm constantly bombarded with social media. I think is terrible and wonderful tool. You know, I feel like everybody has so much overload of information that we're trying to distract ourselves with hookup and sex culture because that's simple. That's easy. That takes it back to basics. You know, sex is simplistic. It makes sense for everybody in the room. Everybody's getting enjoyment. It's plain, you know, straight to the point. And I think that's where the hookup culture is. And we can sit here and we can enjoy like an exchange, but you know, people don't really believe in things that last anymore. People are in such a sad state of like, we do have the knowledge. We know the things that we've been working for, that we've been trying to fix. We can't even solve getting people water. So at the end of the day, you got to just find somebody to hold on to where you can feel good about things anyway.
So how do you solve that problem?
I don't know. I feel like that's what everybody's trying to figure out, since Nietzsche to like fucking, you know, every Zen Buddhist book, self-help book. I think we're all trying to figure it out when the only thing you can do is focus on yourself. It's literally, you can only control it for yourself. And it's depressing because you want to help other people. When you figure out that revelation, then you get worn out. You're like trying to sit here and spread the word like some cult leader.
Well, how do you stop yourself from the hookup culture?
I don't. I'm horrible about it. Like
You're the hookup queen?
No, it's not that I'm a hookup queen. It's that I realize that I have an unhealthy relationship with sex and love, and that I probably, even though I think I'm a good person and I only sleep with people I enjoy or like get along with or have some kind of energy with, I'm not hooking up with people with the intention of being with them long term for the most part. And I understand that it's like has time limits, and that I'm not at a point in my life where I'm happy enough with myself to not be.
What do you mean it has time limits?
Maybe I'm just personally jaded on romance or whatever, but I just feel like I feel like for me, it's such a distraction for my ultimate goals in life that like I don't want to be. I have to tell myself whenever I'm around anybody who I might be interested in that it has a time limit, because if it doesn't already have an end point in my mind, it's a distraction and I get anxiety about it. And it's like that loss possibility that I'm not willing to look at. So I'd rather just be like, no, I would never want to date for anything serious right now, because it gives me anxiety. It distracts me. It distracts me from my goals with my health and my school and the money I'm trying to make. I think that
so it's fear.
Hookups easier. Yeah, probably.
Now we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere here. Yeah, I think that there are a lot of people that have been hurt in the past, and because of that, they fear that loss, so they immediately just like shut down their relationship before they ever give it a chance. And so that's where a lot of the hookup culture comes from. But I did. So I was reading a book one time. I forgot what book it was. But they were talking about what happens whenever you trap animals in a zoo. And they were doing this study over monkeys. And a lot of the study that they were doing is the same things that we do today. So like these are like our zoos, cities are. And the way we act in these cities, which hookup culture is a big part of it, was something that the animals displayed when they're trapped in a zoo. I think that's why if you go to like small towns like where I'm from, you don't, I mean, I'm sure people are still hooking up. Don't get me wrong there, but you see a lot of relationships that last. They stand the test of time. Like even my best friend, he's been in a marriage ever since he got out of high school. My sister and her husband, they've been in a marriage ever since. Like we just see a lot of relationships that last the test of time, rather than living in a city where, you know, we revert back to our animal selves. And I think that a lot of people just aren't in control of themselves.
Yeah, I would agree.
Meditation is key.
That's another healthy habit.
It is a healthy habit.
Should have added to the list for sure. Meditation's great.
I fucking love meditation. Avid meditator every single day.
Have you ever been able to meditate to the point where you actually get images in your mind? Where, you know, like people say, like, go to your place. Have you ever gotten to the point of like clarity in your head where you can actually see the place when your eyes are closed?
That's a thing that you have to try to do.
You don't have to try it. I mean, is that something that comes naturally to you? Because I didn't realize that. Okay, no. So this is a very interesting topic to me.
Aphantasia.
I literally
That's what it's called.
I cried the first time I reached that point in meditation. Mm-hmm. And it was like shortly after having a real stint of struggle with my mental health. And I was like freshly back leveled out, and I was practicing meditation pretty regularly. And I was like, okay, you know, I'm going to sit here and try to like actually clear my mind in a real way. And, you know, people say, think of your happy place, and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why this was the association that popped in my head, but I was thinking about my childhood and my sister and like how I like really didn't like watching Winnie the Pooh, which was her favorite show, but it was something that secretly grew on me that I didn't like allow myself to enjoy at the time, even though I would kind of watch it through my hands while I'd pout because I wanted to watch something else, you know? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, happy times. Like, let me clear my head and think about happy times. And all of a sudden in my head, while I'm sitting there, my mind had gone so blank and calm with just that one thought of happy. And in my head, I saw Pooh and Piglet skipping through like a field of fucking daisies, like a cartoon. Mm-hmm. And it was the most intense and crazy experience. Like I was like, oh my God, am I having a psychosis episode right now? Like I'm seeing shit. Am I hallucinating? But then I opened my eyes and I was right back in my room. So it was more of like, it was, I believe, a meditative state, but it was so peaceful, but it was overwhelming. Like I cried. I was like, how can my mind usually not be that clear? I've never seen an image in my head before. It's always static or just light. I can't easily bring myself to a happy place.
Is that different than imagination?
I don't know. Because I really see it like it's a movie when I close my eyes.
Well, yeah,
when I get to that point of clarity.
Imagination, right?
I don't know if I've ever used my imagination.
That was a first.
Isn't that crazy?
How old were you again?
This was recently.
Get the fuck out of here.
Recently. It was heartbreaking to me. It was like I couldn't even understand what I hadn't experienced before. Yeah. People had told me about meditation, but I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was like trying to be quiet, really. And like closing your eyes and having a blank slate as much as possible. But to like reach that point of meditation, which I know there is levels to it, was something that was completely new to me and very, very interesting.
Yeah. One of the key teachings they tell you in meditation is to, you know, close your eyes and imagine an apple and just hold that image of an apple in your mind, like clear everything else out of the way. And when you can clear everything else out of the way and hold that one image in your mind, that's like the first step to meditation. And then after that, you can actually get rid of the apple and then there's nothing in your mind.
I'm going to try the apple method next, you know?
That's so interesting. I have it. So whenever I first realized that some people couldn't visualize things in their brain, I said, we have a group text message with all the guys that I went to school with. And I sent them the message and I was like, hey, did you guys know this was a thing? And one of the guys there was like, you guys can see images in your brain. And we're like, what in the fuck do you even see? He's like, I just see words sometimes.
Okay. I have a follow-up. Like, do you have like substantial parts of the day where you just don't have thoughts in your brain and you're just kind of doing your thing?
Only when I meditate.
Only when you meditate.
Yeah, like if I'm just chilling out, there's like a whole fucking dialogue going on up in here.
Yeah,
it's not
always
even
for me too.
It's not even a monologue. It's like people are in there arguing and shit. But I've learned how to control it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's an interesting thing too. Like for me, like mental health is important. I don't necessarily want to dive into that topic on the podcast today, but I feel like the constant stream of thoughts is something that a lot of people deal with that they don't even realize could be labeled, as like anxiety or, an overactive mind. But it is something that you have to learn to control, or it'll throw your emotional state out of whack,
Yeah, I think one of the things I can give my parents credit for is at a very young age, they like didn't believe in medication. So if they probably would have took me to a doctor when I was young, they probably would have diagnosed me with ADHD and put me on drugs at like a very young age. But my parents was like, no, he's got to learn how to, live in this world without depending on medication. And I think that's one of the crutches that we have nowadays in the world is at a very young age, we're dosing kids with medications and telling them that, you need this because you're sick, rather than just letting them, learn how to deal with their own biology and physiology.
I had another, on that note, back to my anthropology class, I was reading another thing about the Inuit tribe, and they were talking about how anger is not like an issue in their culture, like emotional control like that is not an issue. We have so many, we think of it as such a natural thing that you have to learn to control and everything. But they were talking about in this article how the Inuit tribe, like basically from the time the children are like toddlers, they never show anger with them. They don't learn it. They don't learn that that's the way to express things. And they teach them through like kind of dramatic storytelling and through like physical displays, how outbursts of anger can hurt the people around you. Like they'll give a rock to a 2-year-old and be like, throw it at me. And then once it hits them, and the 2-year-old likes this person that they're playing with, they go, ow, 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 ow. So they learn like, I don't want to throw rocks at people.
I don't want to hurt anybody.
Because that's going to hurt somebody. And it might be like, I'm sure there's a lot of different ways to look at this, but it's an interesting concept to me that these things are introduced, these concepts of having things wrong with you, like emotionally and like thought wise, and not being able to control those kind of things could be culturally introduced. Since like, it seems like that from what I was reading, that tribe really doesn't deal with stuff like that for the most part.
Well, they probably live a less stressful life too. I mean, I think that if you take any animal and put them in a stressful situation, they're going to start acting out I would say in a violent way. I think that's where, the anger comes from. But if you take like in the Inuits, they probably don't have the stresses of, paying your phone bill or paying your rent.
No, it's a very, very simple life. They're like an igloo tribe. So and they do tents during the off season, and it's like they're blubber and caribou living that life, but they have a certain amount of peace. And like, it's like there is something to be said about these simplistic lifestyles that really just focus on basic needs, because you see the same thing with like people like, oh, how are the Buddhist monks and the
yogis?
The yogis. Yes. Okay. Thank you. The yogis are, and it's because they really just learn to be where they are.
Yeah.
And it's like,
eat plain
cheesy
rice.
as that is.
Yeah. Eat plain rice and beans and like meditate and shit.
So yeah, just like don't enjoy anything and leave out all the good stuff, and then we can go ahead and change things.
Well, I think you can enjoy stuff as a yogi, but I think that I think it's about controlling the joy. I think that's our issue, is we have no self-control in this society we live in. It's a very complex machine, and you're not taught at a young age how to deal with all the emotions this complex machine is going to throw at you. So that's why we end up just exploding. Or you go in deep in the darkness and you swim your way out.
Yeah,
I
feel like it can go either way. I feel like no matter what, you're always going to end up coming to a pressure point where you have to figure out how your influences throughout your life have affected your current mindset, and you need to learn how to control them. And some people are blessed with the ideal situation, which they were able to come to those things without confrontation. And some people don't, we all have different circumstances. And that's why so many people I feel like are arguing over the right way to do it. Like I came to my enlightenment of like being able to have this point of view through this, this, and this, and this, and this. And that's why you should teach this, or go take some mushrooms and you'll figure out the ways of the world. You better go smoke a lot of weed, or you better go to church, or you need to follow this religion, or you need to exercise every day. And then you can be strong and perfect like me. Like, it's like, no, it's a huge spectrum. It's a huge spectrum, and why there's merits to everybody's point of view. And I think everybody's point of view has merit because it all teaches us something, but it's how we react and how we use this information that ends up being important. And I feel like, emotional control is something that's developed differently for everybody, but it is something that we all at some point in our lives have to recognize as we can't just be a product of our circumstances. We have to kind of be able to choose a yogi-esque mindset in a way to be more productive and peaceful overall, I guess, is my point of view. But
Zen.
as silly as it may be, and as preachy as it is for somebody who struggles with all of the same things as everybody else, Well,
I don't.
Well, yeah, because you're perfect.
Absolutely.
You're consistently an asshole. And therefore, I know that everything that comes out of your mouth is shit. So I don't have to question it.
Consistently an asshole, but also consistently awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. One punch man.
It's the duality. Duality.
Yes.
In order to be as much of an asshole as I am, I also have to be as awesome as I am.
Yeah, of course.
So, poli-sci major.
Yes.
How do you feel about the elections that are going on?
I think it is a mess. I think that, unfortunately, it is getting harder and harder to encourage people to be involved in civic duty. I think that there are things that should be clarified overall about election time that aren't. About election times that aren't.
I didn't even know it was a thing right now.
I'm about to out myself and be so full of shame right now. But like, the thing is, I realized this election, and I didn't make it to the gubernatorial race, which passed like earlier last year, and I should have known this from that. If I would have gone there, I would have been able to vote in the primary because I would have been able to update my information. But
hang on. Let's go back.
Let's go back. This is why I'm saying I'm about to out myself.
What are you even talking about? Like, if you go to the governor race, you have to update your information to vote.
Okay, so
I don't even vote.
I am currently registered independent, and I updated my address to where I make sure that my district was up to date. But I wasn't aware, and I'm a political science major, which is so embarrassing. But for some reason, I still thought that I would be able to vote in the primary and choose like between the Republican and Democratic candidates and all the districts and stuff, even though I'm registered as independent. But when I went to the polls yesterday,
you have to register as one of those, right?
I was turned away because I was not registered as Republican or Democratic. And I think that this is one of the problems about our system, because you're making people choose an ideology to even pick who is going to end up running for the real election. So, or like the national election, real election, they're all real, but I feel dumb getting turned away like that. It really discouraged me. It made me feel a little hopeless. And it made me think like, damn, I'm sitting here in these classes learning about constitutional law, doing my best to understand the history. And, I am human and I have my stuff. I'm distracted sometimes. I'm like, I must not be paying close enough attention. I feel horribly like apologetic to Dr. Shervanak, the teacher who is doing my U.S. presidency class, who I'm sure mentioned this at some point and I didn't catch it. But it's just like, why do we have to pick an ideology to vote in the primary?
Yeah,
I don't want to be registered as Democratic or Republican. As a Democrat or Republican, I want to be able to read, after I get my little sample ballot, information about all the candidates and make a choice based on who I think is better served. But at the end of the day, the more and more we learn about the Electoral College, the intricacies of the way our political system is set up, it seems that the single vote doesn't really matter. So what are we even doing? Like, why? And it just stresses me out. And I wish that there was a better way than pestering people to go vote. And then probably when they're going on the online register and they have to pick Democratic or Republican and they aren't politically interested people, you know, they're sitting there going, well, why are you making me pick one of these things? And I also think there is something to be said about the way that the data is collected on the divide in America. If we're forcing people to register as Republican or Democrat, because isn't that kind of skewing the numbers of how people feel if they're having to switch their political affiliation from Democrat or Republican to independent? But this is just an unresearched take. And I'm, like I said, again, I'm embarrassed. I should be paying more attention in my classes, but I'm more worried about knowing the information that's on the exams. And that's kind of sad, but
right.
It is what
I
it
mean,
is.
you said there's a lot going on there.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, a little fast.
No, it's okay. You made a lot of good points. Yeah, I think the major one there is that we should not have a two-party system, and you should not have to register your party to go vote. That's ridiculous. I mean, what happens if you register as a Democrat and then go to the polls and want to vote Republican? Can you do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be a private ballot, so you should be able to do whatever you want behind that door, which is why I don't understand why you would have to register as one or another. But it doesn't make sense to me.
No, are you familiar with rank voting method?
No.
Okay, so right now we use past the poll voting method to vote for president.
Mm-hmm.
But rank voting method would be what you're actually advocating for. So past the poll voting, you get one vote. You go in, you vote for your party, your politician, and that's it. It goes away. Rank voting method, you would go in and you would pick your top 5 candidates, and then you would basically put them, rank them 1 through 5. And then if at any one point your candidate, number one candidate, is not going to be in the in the running for president, like there's just no way he's going to make it because he didn't get enough votes, it goes to number 2, your vote. So your vote still gets counted, but that way you get a more accurate representation of the person that the people want to be president. Because if you go vote in the ranked voting method, the way we have it now, your vote's just thrown away.
Yeah, I mean, it also just... Yeah, it seems like there should be a better way, especially with how everybody is like, the way the political climate has become and the way that people are weeded out of these elections. Like, I feel there should definitely be more choices available. And I don't know, my head can't even wrap around. I'm trying to respond to you, but at the same time, I'm just so frustrated that they're narrowing it to having to pick an ideology.
Yeah.
That just stresses me out. And I understand what you're saying about the ranked voting and how it's like if a scandal would come out about one of the people who you originally picked, then your next choice would bump up, or like that's what you're saying. Or if like they didn't get the votes, it would go down for the ranking. I don't know how that would work as far as... You're just saying there would be backup choices?
No.
Can you explain that deeper?
Okay. What I'm saying is the way it is right now, past the poll voting is what it's called. You go in, we have 2 main candidates, okay?
Yes.
If you go in, or if, say we have a third candidate, like one you can write in. You go in, you vote for this third candidate. It's kind of a throwaway vote, right? It's almost like you have to vote for Democrat or Republican.
I understand what you're saying. Okay, I understand. So we're cutting... Because I'm so used to, because I've been taught my whole life party politics in the classroom, it's hard for me to like wrap my brain around the idea of having like a nonpartisan, like these are the kind of like the best people for the jobs. And then we're narrowing it down from there is what you're saying with the votes.
Yeah. So the other way you would vote, you would basically cast your vote 5 times.
Yes.
So you would say, this is my number one candidate, and then I'll take this one next. And if he doesn't get it either, I'll take this one next. That way your vote still gets counted. Because if that first guy isn't going to be in the running, we mark him off and we go to your number 2 candidate. Your vote still get casted.
That way,
for
it's
that
not
guy.
like we're rounding them off at smaller levels and waiting. Like, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that would work perfectly. But the whole issue is the delivery mechanism. And that's where the blockchain voting comes in.
Yes, our last topic.
But
okay, let's go.
Yeah. So the way I think, if we're looking at politics right now, I think the main issue that we have is in Congress. And they recently just passed their new budget, which should have been done, I think, last September, but it's just now getting done in March. So that's a problem right there in itself. but they're passing the budget that they passed was 1,002 pages or something like that. And they passed it within 23 hours. So you had 23 hours to read 1,002 pages. Like that's the bill they threw out there. No one's going to fucking read that. They're basically just trying to push it through. That way they don't have to do a government shutdown, which is also bonkers. It's like we have a bunch of kids in there working in Congress.
The overall national budget right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it ended up being what, like 7 point?
No, it's 1.2 trillion.
Oh, I thought it was even more than that.
1.2 trillion?
Yeah.
You said billion.
I mean, I thought it was like 7.
No, it was 1.2 trillion, I think. But yeah, you can look it up. You can fact check me.
No, I don't want to go into it that deep. But
anyway, so I think
exuberant amount of money that they passed over 1,000-page thing with.
What amount of money that most Americans can't even fathom?
No, yeah.
Like you can't even picture what $1 trillion is. But yes, so that's a huge problem. So what we need is a control mechanism for Congress because they're doing shit that no one even knows about. The average American doesn't even know about. So this is where the app comes in. So we basically put an app on the phone that whenever Congress goes to pass a bill, it goes to your phone first, and you get a chance to swipe left or right on it for yes or no. We use AI to break down the bills. So AI can go through a 1,000-page bill in like 10 seconds. It'll pull out all the things that shouldn't be in the bill and let you know what's in the bill. And then it'll also give a synopsis of it in language that the average human can understand.
Oh, yeah, but this is such a scary concept for so many people out there.
Why? Why is it scary?
Because what's going to happen to the education system when things are so readily available? What's going to happen to the economy in general when all these things move at this kind of a pace? Like, it's going to be overwhelming for people to adapt the simplicity of that because it's really going to take the status out of the equation. Everybody's going to have the information acceptable. So,
well, no, I mean, why
would elites let that happen?
No, the they won't let it happen, but there's no way to stop it. Is the thing about the blockchain is the only way to stop it is to unplug the fucking cord of the blockchain. And there's so much money going into this. Who's
creating this blockchain? This is already the thing that's.
So this is one of the issues that I was talking about the other night with the guy that was in the bar. Is there are so many awesome technologies right now, and the people just can't keep up with it. Because you're asking who's creating this blockchain. You should have already known this. Like this should be widespread knowledge right now.
But this is the problem with society as a whole is that we as a whole are that we can't even keep up with the day to day because we don't have the health to like stay focused and aware. And we're stuck in the cycle of chasing dopamine that we have no idea what's going on. Even me, somebody who's sitting in a classroom trying to sit here, my mind is so distracted with like what's going on in the world and why does nobody love me and why are people unfed and why is shit going on? And it's like not the constant thought, it's that rotation of thoughts. And this is what I'm talking about, like mental health issues and the depression and stuff that we deal with and the importance of meditation.
Okay. Well, let me
bringing it back to earth.
So. Let me go to the blockchain really quick. Okay. Yes. So what a blockchain is basically a distributed ledger. So it's not centrally controlled by anybody. Mm-hmm. So picture 20 computers. This is going to be like a bad analogy, but 20 computers on a desk. Each one of the computers has a little piece of an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. So they all have a piece of it. And in order for that Excel spreadsheet to update, all 20 computers must agree that this is the correct ledger. And then you have a whole string of them, which makes it a blockchain. So each time it updates, you get a new block on the chain. Okay. So anyone who goes and makes changes to that original ledger, it'll mess up the entire thing. So that's why you can't really hack a blockchain because you have to hack the entire ledger all the way down. So once it starts, that's it. So now no one can actually hack it. So that's why this would be a great system to put this app on. And you can put apps on it now with this blockchain called Ethereum.
Okay.
So Ethereum has this thing called smart contracts, and smart contracts are essentially apps that can go on your phone and other things. And this ledger is being built out right now. Tons of money is going into this stuff. But you put this voting app on that ledger, and the only ones that can access it are called oracles. And you make these oracles AI-based with like 1 or 2 humans that are actually in control of this as well. Had to be trustworthy humans, obviously. Mm-hmm. But you let the AI put the bills on there. You let humans swipe left and right. It goes to, for each politician, it goes to their constituents.
Okay.
So whenever you vote on something, that after you vote on it, it goes back to your politician. They see the way that you want them to vote. And then if they vote opposite the way their constituents want them to vote, it notifies you in the app, as well as keeps a report card for each politician. That way, come the end of their term, if they get an F, it's time to get them the fuck out because they're not working for you. They're working for themselves. So you get politicians in there that are actually doing the job correctly. And then I think a lot of these problems that we have, the small problems, will solve themselves.
I think it's a brilliant idea.
Fucking crushed it.
Yeah, I think that's great. I feel like we should. Mic drop right there. We just changed the world, on Another Bar podcast.
God damn.
Woo, let's go. Let's all communicate and have healthy habits.
Dude, I think it would work. I mean, but whatever.
Use the blockchain to make some big decisions that need to be simplified because we're all overwhelmed and thinking about life all the time.
Well, there's a lot of cool shit that's going on with the blockchain that I don't know why more people haven't adopted it yet. I know it's kind of a confusing way to make payments and stuff because they haven't really. So have you know anything about blockchain?
I don't.
Okay. It's basically crypto is what it is. I'm sure you've heard of that word.
I've definitely heard about crypto.
Well, each wallet address is like a fucking massive, number of letters and numbers. So it confuses people already. So, I mean, when you're sending payments out to each other, it's kind of a wonky system. So it still needs to be flushed out, but this is like the internet whenever the internet was just starting. Like this is how big this is going to be for the human race.
Well, that's exciting.
Anyway, what else do we have on the list? Anything else?
I feel like that's where we're wrapping it up.
We're wrapping it up there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Alyssa, can the people find you anywhere?
Absolutely not.
Okay. She don't want you to find her.
No, I would rather just be found out and about. I live in New Orleans. I don't know if anybody runs across me and you listen to Another Bar podcast. My name's Alyssa Garofalo.
Alyssa Garofalo. Thank you for coming in today.
No problem. Bye-bye.